Hello, one and all. We're here at San Diego Comic-Con 2023 with Mark and Matthew of Young Love, which has come from Hair Love.
Yes.
Oscar-winning animated short that you did incredible work on. Can you guys tell me about expanding that story?
Yeah, Hair Love has had a lot of different lives. It's also a picture book that's done really well. And so, I think early on when we did our Kickstarter, we were thinking like, man, like what would be the best way to try to expand upon this? Does a movie make sense or, does a TV show? And I think a TV show always made the most sense just because you have this kind of family dynamic, even in the short film, despite the fact that they didn't talk, there was all this backstory and kind of history there that was implied, and it was really fun just like taking them from these characters that don't really have dialogue and the story is being moved forward with score and music to actually giving them voices and like what would their personalities be like, what are the different conflicts and all the things that you need to make compelling television. So the tone was really hard just because people, Hair Love really blew up. It's got almost over 100 million views on YouTube. The book has sold millions of copies, and so we knew that there was already going to be an expectation. A lot of kids love this story. Parents love experiencing it with their kids. So we wanted to make sure that tonally it was something that the whole family could enjoy together. So we went with a more co-viewing scenario where you can live in Zuri's world a little bit, but also in the parents.
I love that. And speaking of like the way that it's spoken to so many people, Mark, can you talk about kind of incorporating any feedback that you have seen from it into this new story?
Yeah, no, absolutely. With Hair Love, just Matthew's always telling me that he sees, like, he always gets tagged almost on a daily basis of young girls dressing up as Zuri with the cape on and the Afro puffs, and so we're hoping that continues throughout the once the series is launched. We want that same type of response from the audience.
I love that. You mentioned, giving voice to the characters now, because we've already come to know them and yet they didn't speak. So in terms of the casting, what is that process like? How do you find the right Zuri?
Yeah, I mean, Zuri was probably the hardest one because, you could go a lot of different ways. You can have an adult that, is actually trying to sound like a kid. Obviously, sometimes the issues with casting kids is that they get older, as these shows take 2 and 3 years to get made. So by the time you get into a second season, now, the voices sound a little different. But found this amazing young woman by the name of Brooke Monroe Conway. She's just so full of life. She's so funny. She's able to do the more like a lot of the comedy for her. We had to kind of age up a little bit just because her character is about 6 years old. And we didn't want parents looking at her scenes and being like, this is taking me out of it. This feels like, a preschool show, or it feels like something like too kiddie. So she's really like having fun with some more like adult situations and conflict, and she's really been able to deliver, and she's such a find. And then we have Issa Rae coming back. She had like a little bit of her voice in the short, but she's playing the mom, Angela Young, and Kid Cudi is playing the dad and Stephen Love, and so Zuri's last name's Zuri Young Love.
I love it.
Right.
Love is the answer.
It is the answer. It is. Yeah, and then we got, Loretta Devine. We have Harry Lennox, Tamar Braxton. So just a really amazing voice cast overall.
Yeah, that's amazing. You really do have a stellar cast lined up there. Like everyone should come just to listen to the voices first of all, and then see the amazing story.
I'm super excited about how people are going to respond to Zuri, because she is a scene stealer. Like, she's so amazing. It's gonna be awesome.
What has been your most either challenging or like moment that you're proudest of thus far in the process?
Well, I was sitting back and thinking about it. We did this whole show during the pandemic, right? And when I've been in animation for about 15 years, and there is a certain camaraderie that you build when you're in the studio with your other coworkers and trying to, you're all focused on one mission. And during the pandemic, you would hear talks that, and you could still do animation because people are home, they're still at their computers and they can still do animation. Don't believe that. It was really, really hard to do this during the pandemic, and a lot of times we didn't really think about that as we're working. But looking back, it was just an amazing feat to be able to produce an animated television show during the pandemic and not getting to know, all of my coworkers in the flesh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that this is adding another story that's not only about a Black family, but a multi-generational story.
Yeah.
What's it like for each of you to get to like put your own piece of that narrative together?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the funnest part, you know, like you got the grandparents who come from a totally different generation. Obviously, like online, there's always talks of like you have Nepo baby, and then you have, you know, okay boomer, you know, like everybody has their kind of different like take on it. It's just really cool to see like how 6 different characters all tasked with the same problem, how they all would attack it, you know, based off of also personality, but also just kind of what period of the world that they grew up in. You know, and I think we're also seeing now just Gen Z just being so like vocal and like not taking a lot of the same stuff that, you know, millennials and, you know, older generations would take. So mixing that in with, you know, a little bit more of a conservative perspective has been really fun and has been a great generator of conflict for us in the show.
Ah, that's wonderful. Thank you guys so much for coming in. I cannot wait for Young Love, and I really just want to see, I hope that everyone, you know, gets what they are due.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you guys.
All right.